Welcome, and welcome back to Lights, Camera, Baby. It was just Lay who said that children are not objects to be molded, but people to be unfolded. Today, we're talking about childhood development and all the milestones that concern your baby. So grab your notes, grab your partner, grab your friends, grab your girlfriends, and if you can't be together, well, share the link and share the love of parenting. In this milestone episode, we're joined by none other than speech-language therapist and early childhood development specialist, Rhoda Naidoo. With her, we have psychologist Inge, parenting blogger, and mom, Mari-Louise Candiotes. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. We really do appreciate it. On the topic of milestones, Rhoda, what exactly are milestones?
So milestones are anything from a baby being able to wave goodbye, saying hello to their mum, being able to take their first step and their first word. So really, a milestone is basically anything that the child can do at a specific age.
And what maybe are milestones that mom must look out for earlier on?
So the baby would be able to, obviously, from the 0 to 6 months, be able to babble, to coo, make a raspberry sound. So it's like when they're blowing bubbles with their spit. And obviously localized to sound. That means being able to turn. If they hear a sound on that side, localizing and rolling to that side of it. As the baby obviously grows, then they get strength to be able to roll over completely. So moving from one side to the body initially, then to the other side, and then being able to roll over completely.
It starts with small little steps, it seems. Hey, it'll start somewhere small.
Yes, definitely. I think everything adds up. So you might not necessarily realize that the child is actually gaining momentum and doing all of these little steps. But like you say, you put them together and then you got a baby that's already grown up as the months go by.
True, and you blink and it's really just rolling over out of nowhere. Inge, how important are milestones in development?
So milestones give us the clues on a child's development. So if we see that a child has reached a milestone, then we know they are developing as expected. So they are important for us to keep an eye engaged on how they are developing and if they're developing as they should be.
That's actually really important because I feel like the more you know, the better you know, and the more you can actually look out for in your child. Mari-Louise, you actually mentioned earlier that you actually also studied childhood development, right?
Yes.
Were you actually caught up with your kids and their development? And how was that process watching? Because I can imagine.
I think in a lot of ways it was actually more stressful,
Yes.
especially with my first, because I had to stop and say I'm a mom now, and you kind of want a textbook baby. You want them to reach that milestone because you can't help, especially with your first child. It's just so stressful thinking, are they developing correctly? Is it at the right time? So it was stressful, but I mean, when they hit that milestone, there's just nothing better.
There's no turning back. No, I couldn't wait for my daughter to start crawling. Then she started crawling. I was like, oh my goodness. Girl, slow down.
Yes.
Rhoda, when it actually comes to development, how important is it for parents to track the development of their child?
I think, like our friend has just said, you do get to the point where you want your child so badly to just get to that next milestone, and you're watching them and you're waiting and you're eagerly wanting it. But we also shouldn't put too much of pressure. So really, every child is different. And we said we're using the milestones as a guideline, just as a clue, as Inge mentioned, that we're using that as a guideline just to give us some indication as to what the child should be doing. So it is very important, but I also wouldn't become too overly panicked about it to the point that now, oh my goodness, my child has turned 1 and they're not walking. There must be something wrong. Because we need to also understand that every child is different. And we're just using it as an umbrella to say within this time frame, the child should be doing X,
A, B,
Y,
C,
and
D,
Z.
Yes. And Inge, is it actually important for one to reach certain milestones at a certain age?
So it is, but it also doesn't matter in terms of exactly when. For me, it's more important that the child reaches the development milestone more than the age that the child reaches it. So it doesn't really matter whether you're walking at 10 months or 12 months or 15 months. As long as the child starts walking independently, be a parent that supports that instead of stressing yourself out about exactly the age when a child should be doing a developmental milestone.
Because I feel as if, especially as first-time moms, as Mari-Louise said earlier on, we're actually a bit more stressed about it. Like, they're not supposed to... My friend's kid started walking when she was 10 months. And like my baby, she started walking just after her first birthday. And since then, she's been a bit lazy about it. So as a mom of 3, Mari-Louise, how have you been finding looking at your daughter's developments at different stages of their lives? Has it been similar, or has there been certain things that you can see that, as you said earlier on, every child is different?
I think, thank goodness for a second baby, because then you realize, oh, maybe these age and numbers, that's not as important, because our firstborn was a textbook baby. I promise you, it was like she read the books with me, and if it said you had to walk at 1, she would wait until her first birthday, and she
up
would
she
walk.
goes.
But then we had our second, and she just wanted to be with her sister. So she hit those milestones far earlier. And then with our third, I just think she doesn't really mind, because she was a slow walker. She was slow to every single milestone. But thank goodness by that time I knew it wasn't about the age. It was more about going through every stage. So yeah.
What advice do you actually have for other moms that maybe have a mom of siblings that is looking at that different development by their kids?
I think what helped me was realizing that it wasn't an age thing. It was actually making sure that your baby went through the stages of development. Instead of having this number, it's a guideline. It's important for them to crawl before they walk. Stuff like that.
Yes.
I started focusing more on that and moving away from being nervous about them not sitting up, and they're 6 months old. Why aren't they sitting up? So yeah, I think maybe giving yourself a little bit of grace and just looking at your child and
enjoying those moments, actually, and being with them in that moment.
Exactly.
But when a child actually doesn't reach those milestones, Rhoda, what does that mean?
I think it's also, I was just going to jump in there and say it's really important for us to, as much as we're saying we're using the numbers as a guideline, not to play the other side of the fence, where we then say, okay, the child is totally fine, and maybe he's 3 years old and he isn't speaking. I'm speaking from a speech therapist point of view. Because in that case, I mean, I know many a friend that have taken their kids off to a GP and said, oh, my child is not talking. And most of the doctors obviously would say, let's take a wait and see approach, you know. So obviously we are trying to now promote the awareness of early intervention. So I do think if we have any concerns, we'd rather consult a specialist and get to the bottom of it, get some advice, even if it is just a telephonic conversation with a specialist and say, I'm having these concerns, what do you think? Should I take it further, or, you know, am I being a neurotic mom?
Yes,
because some of the times,
be like
yes,
that, yes.
And we are sometimes neurotic. And I think just as mothers, we tend to think, am I overreacting? Am I being paranoid? But sometimes just to hear an outside voice that, okay, yes, this child is actually 2 and he isn't, you know, putting 2 words together. So those kind of things we should be alarmed about. So I do think, you know, we are on the side of caution that, yes, it isn't a number, but we need to take that number with some consideration.
Of seriousness,
Of seriousness. So if there's repeated occurrences of you having that uncertainty, or the child is really way past the number that he should be doing a certain milestone or performing a certain action, then we do need some action on it.
So it really is taking things seriously, but at the same time enjoying the ride.
Of course, yes.
You know, I think as a mom, we're always going to be worried and have anxiety, as you said earlier on. We are very neurotic parents.
Yes.
But Inge, how does a parent actually deal psychologically with having to wait for these milestones to happen?
I think you need to make it fun as well. I also think, you know, putting things out for your child to try and encourage those milestones through play is very important. So in other words, putting out something for a child to crawl towards is encouraging crawling. So making it fun, because when you're also less stressed and less anxious, your child is going to achieve and not pick up on those little things. And then it's a whole fun, like, relationship bonding situation that you're having, instead of like, oh my word, you know, we're supposed to be walking by now and we're not. You know, try and do it through play and through fun.
So it really is a bonding exercise, I must say. But what happens why is it so important the milestones occur, the ones specifically before the age of 5? Why are those so crucial?
So before the age of 5, there are neurological pathways that are being built in the brain. And obviously, like Inge mentioned, everything is happening through play. We often hear the phrase that kids are like little sponges, you know, they are sucking in everything, they're taking in every experience. And it's so important for them to build those proper neural pathways. So a lot of people speak of letting them be barefoot, because that's the best thing ever, feeling the sand between their toes.
Yes.
I think we as adults take it for granted that we know what it is
Feels
to be
like,
a child.
yes.
But actually just feeling that ocean breeze hitting you for the first time is creating a pathway, creating a memory in their brain. And then along with that comes the communication for that. Then the cognitive or the motor skills that go with that experience.
Yes.
They would remember, oh, when I was playing in the garden, I opened up the hose and the water came out, and I remember the sound that was associated
And do
with
it again the next
yes.
day.
And then when I touched it, it felt wet. So all of that, even just from play, it's so important because it's building on to another skill that they will use the next time.
So I figured that play is really, really important. I feel like playing with your children is actually even more important. The fact that the whole family engages together. In as much as we can enjoy the playing, it gets to a point where mom and dad get a little bit impatient. I remember with my child, I'm like, girl, get up, let's just do something. You know, Mari-Louise, did you ever have any of those moments with your kids?
Oh yeah, I think you do, because it's like you said, we take things for granted. For them, something is brand new. It's the first time they've ever experienced it, and we are kind of like, let's get to the play part, and we don't give them enough time. But for us, I think messy play is like a huge part. All of the
Yes.
messy sensory play, because it kind of gets you playing as well, because you also forgot how much fun it is to get it.
Yes. And I think it's really a great bonding thing, as Inge said earlier on. Inge, how important actually is it for your relationship with your child to reach the developments together, let's say?
So I think the foundation of a child learning is through relationships, because it's their feeling of feeling safe and supported, and also like not judged. And I know at a young age we don't think that they can judge, but if they're seeing the look on your face of them even like, you know, taking a step closer, and the joy, that also encourages them. So relationships are definitely the foundation of a child reaching these developmental milestones.
Let's play together, let's get dirty together, let's learn together. That is basically the consensus of us reaching our milestones together, because I think in also doing that, you don't miss out on anything, but being there and being present. That's the best thing I think I've read and I've heard from our panel of experts today, is that being there and being present with your kids really, really does go a long way. This is such a fun and essential topic for moms and dads. As we've just heard, you play the leading role in simply loving them the best you can as you watch them grow. After the break, we discuss the big milestones to look out for at various stages. Don't go anywhere.
Your hug tenderly cares for your baby. Our hug gently protects his delicate skin. Huggies Extra Care is our gentle, protective hug with soft pillows that absorb mess in seconds to protect newborn skin. An extra wide, stretchy waistband and unique runny poo pocket for better leakage protection. Huggies Extra Care, now available in sizes 3, 4, and 5.
Huggies has a hug for every moment, and we show our love through giving to an incredible community of moms. Follow this week's unique link for Lights, Camera, Baby. Complete the form and submit your details to stand a chance of winning your share of 50,000 Rand in Huggies vouchers. Every week, 100 viewers will each receive a 50 Rand discount voucher off their next purchase of Huggies diapers. The great news is you can enter each and every single week. Share the hugs and love with your community and get them to enter too. Moms and dads, thank you for joining us on this epic episode of Baby Milestones. Just before the break, we learned that your love and attention is key ingredients to helping your baby thrive. Now we're about to uncover those milestones at the different phases that your little one will reach. Staying with us in studio today, we still do have speech language therapist and early childhood development specialist Rhoda Naidoo and psychologist Inge. All right, everyone, let's get right back into it. Let's talk about the first 0 to 6 months. What can mom and dad expect?
So mom and dad have brought their bundle of joy home and they're very excited, and rightfully so. A baby would start smiling at mom, but they also know the difference because they know their voices. So now they start to listen for mom's voice. They know familiar sounds in the house, and oftentimes they begin to get startled if they hear a loud sound like a door banging in the background. So it's very nice to look out for those things, because that's telling you that the child is also listening to the sound and can hear the sound in the background. The baby will also start to show some curiosity signs. So if they have to see a little mirror, they look at their little face. And that's where the game peekaboo starts coming through, because they love to see their mommy's faces. They love to hear all these cute little voices that daddy makes, because daddies are the best playmates, as we know. So it's really those kind of things. And like I mentioned earlier, when they do hear a sound, then they're going to be turning on one side, or they heard a bang on that side. They'll turn and look towards what was that. They will start to also show curiosity in taking things to their mouth.
Yes.
We know that.
It doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop. I don't think it gets any better, right? So you'll see lots of kids starting to mouth toys. And obviously from a communication point of view, they do tend to cry when they're hungry. We know that. And you will start to see that there will be a differentiation between the cries.
Yes,
So there are
true.
different cries for hunger. There's different cries for, I just want to see where my mom is. And there's a different cry when I'm wet. So I think moms also just need to look out for that different cry. Because I actually saw a very funny thing that said, imagine if you cry and every time you cry, you just got given a dummy. And you just get shoved with a dummy. But maybe I actually have an itchy foot.
Yes, I just can't tell you. I'm trying my
Can't
best to tell you.
you know?
Yes.
So sometimes it's also just getting to know what your cues are, what your baby is telling you to say. A different high-pitched cry could mean something else. And as they obviously develop during the 0 to 6 months range, you're going to hear some gurgly noises.
Yes.
They will start playing with the spit. They do the raspberries, right? So they try to make gurgle sounds. And all of that is trying to tell you that they're trying to communicate with you.
Right.
So even though they can't really say a word yet, this is them trying to have that one-on-one conversation with you. And that will then develop into them saying sounds like ah, ee. And obviously it has no meaning, but to them, they are having a conversation with you. And I think it would be good that you take turns as a mom. Oh, what is that? What sound are you making? So
You're calling
obviously-
mama. Remember the
Yes.
rest to say mama or dad. That's so real.
Of course, yes, definitely. That's a story for itself. But it's important, obviously, that the child is feeling that they are a confident communicator too. Because I want to know that if I'm speaking to Inge, I'm not just speaking to a brick wall and Inge's just looking at me. Yes, a raised eyebrow, we know, is an expression, but I want to see some expression from mom. Oh, look, mom gets so excited.
When
she
I
gives
do
me a
something
big
different.
smile.
Yes. So Inge, what can mom and dad actually do in a healthy way to encourage their baby to reach their milestones?
I also think, like we discussed earlier, is through play. So making it fun. It also takes the stress out of it, and it also encourages all these milestones. So whether you're trying to get your child to say sounds, like Rhoda said as well, dad with their funny voices, with a lot of expression. I think a good thing is to sing to them, regardless of how bad you think your voice
Never
sounds.
stop me.
Absolutely. They think you sound beautiful. So singing, always reading to them in all the developmental ages. Reading is one of the best. And changing up your voice while you're reading. They love hearing that.
And then in the 9 to 12 months, what milestones should mom and dad or partners be looking out for?
So we're all looking at that one very, very eager one where the child is cruising on the furniture and going around and obviously being very inquisitive, trying to help getting dressed. But like Inge said, I also think very important to encourage the milestone is we're not expecting you to do long, drawn-out activities.
Yes.
But I think what is most important is using your day-to-day, your everyday thing. So setting out your little meal plate and whatever food you're going to be giving the little child. Oh, you've got a spoon in it. And for me, I love that, talking through it.
Yes.
Oh, look, mommy's got some orange butternut for you. Open wide.
Yes.
And I think all of those play games that we used to play where here comes a choo-choo train, it really does have meaning to it because the child then associates this as a fun, happy time that I'm having with mom.
Yes.
And like we said, this play is then developed into meaning and learning. And remember those pathways that are coming through, forming in the brain. So it's really important, obviously. So like we said, by the first birthday, we are going to have the child that's going to be able to follow a simple instruction. Go fetch your shoes or close that door.
Yes.
And also will help with putting their clothes together, feeding themselves. So now we're not just bringing a toy, obviously, we're starting to eat or
But it all
hold.
stardt at the little things of them being
Correct.
inquisitive and them actually wanting to put things in their mouth and you encouraging that behavior.
Encouraging
Yes.
that. Obviously, we're going to get the first word just before their birthdays, but we will then get a build-up. So earlier I said to you, they would say a one sound like ah. And now they start to do they start to put them together, right? So even though we have one sound, but now they're trying to do different sounds and alternate them. So that's something nice to look forward to. And then you obviously get the early words close to their birthdays.
Yes.
And then the first steps towards their birthdays and being able to carry and try to carry even heavier stuff, you know.
Everything and anything that you can pick up, I pick it up, I'll try.
Yes.
That's basically her slogan.
Yes.
And then from the first birthday, from 12 months to 18 months, what can mom expect, Inge?
So I think one of the big things there is that they realize they start getting fearful of things.
Yes.
They also start with the separation anxiety, and there's nothing wrong. It's just completely normal. They don't like it when they don't see their mom and dad. So they might become tearful or worried. They also they like their favorite things. So they might have that favorite teddy bear or blanket, or their favorite person when Granny comes to visit.
Yes.
That's their favorite. They're also able to follow, as Rhoda said, like simple instructions. And also when you're doing a book with them, you know, if you say, where is the giraffe? You know, then they can usually point to the giraffe. So they love using their little pointer finger.
Don't they
as well.
just?
Yes. Also to tell you when you're doing something wrong. And then like the cruising. Going, you know, for the kids that haven't started walking yet, cruising along the furniture, and they love stacking and building things. So giving them those concrete objects to play with. And like Rhoda said, use the things at home. Be creative.
I was about to ask, like, very quickly, because we're out of time. What objects would you say that mom and dad must encourage kids to play with at home? Be it a box or the remote. My daughter absolutely loves the TV remote. Like anything at home that mom and dad could probably use to encourage the baby reaching milestones at home.
I think anything. I think like pots and pans, and give them a wooden spoon, because the sounds also helps them to learn those different sounds that this one makes or that one makes. And it's the boxes. I think often we give our child a gift and then you find them and they're busy playing with the box more than they are with the gift. So it's really, and then paint and water fun and sand. So it is going to get messy. So moms that like to be very clean, you're just going to have to let your hair down and go with the flow.
So let your hair down, go with the flow, get messy, get dirty, let's get playing and let's get learning.
Absolutely.
That's basically it, right?
Yes.
There's so much to discuss, parents, but at last time is not on our side. We've created some milestone infographics for you to use. Head on over to MamaMagic's Instagram page for more. After the break, we get some great practical advice on how to encourage milestones. We want to be there for every milestone for your family from the very first hug, which is why we love giving to our Lights Camera Baby community. We have a fabulous hamper just for you. Subscribe to our channel, MamaMagic SA on YouTube, share your little one's milestone experience with us on MamaMagic Instagram and Facebook feed. Tag at least 2 other friends and you could be the winner of a sensational Huggies hamper. What an episode. We've discussed the various milestones now. The part that I like, which is the practical side of things. So if you're a practical parent, have those pens and papers ready and maybe even your floor. Once again, joined by all 3 of our guests, Rhoda, Naidoo, Inge, and Mari-Louise Candiotes. Welcome back. Good to have you. I wanted to actually ask you earlier on, do you remember your emotions that you felt going through watching your baby's development and them reaching their milestones?
Oh, I always think it's bittersweet. You really want them to get there, but then the moment they get there, it's like they're growing up too fast.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
That is honestly how I also feel.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think when we tend to take it upon ourselves. So when they don't reach it, you feel like you're a bad parent. You start questioning yourself. But then 2 days later, they get there and you're like, okay, maybe.
Well, I always say to my husband, when they call me in for a teacher-parent meeting, I feel like I'm in grade 2, all over again.
Exactly.
Inge, what happens though when the child doesn't reach those milestones? What would be the next step?
So I think often you'll touch base with your pediatrician. And if your pediatrician is showing red flags, then depending on what the milestone is that the child hasn't reached is depending on which way you're going to go, whether it's with speech and language, whether it's with walking. So it depends on what area of concern it is to which specialist you would go to.
That really does make a lot of sense because, as you know, that not every delay is an indication of the exact same thing. Could be an underlining issue. For example, if maybe a child has a speech problem, could that also be indication of something else that's different? I'll say from my personal experience, we speak 2 different languages at home. My husband speaks English and I speak Zulu, mostly to my daughter. Yes. And some people advise me that could cause a bit of a delay in speech. Is that true or not, or could it be an underlying thing?
So I think, like Inge mentioned, interventions, there's a lot of things to obviously look at. We do try to look at the child holistically. So we're not trying to put the child into segments and just little boxes to say you should be doing this at this time. So definitely a child that's bilingual is going to have some confusion because he or she is hearing two different sounds, two different lexicons, we call them, right? And it can be confusing for the child. So we also need to take that and say, okay, let's just give her a few more months. But I do think some red flags, if by the age of 2 we have no words being spoken, we're not responding to any loud sounds, then we do really need some action, because we would expect a child to be startled if there's a loud noise. So if there is the bang of the door and the child doesn't make any startle movement, that's also a concern for me, because there could be recurring middle ear infection and we don't know that.
We don't know about it.
So sometimes if you can't see the eardrum, obviously it's packed away into your ear, but if you look and there's any discharge coming out of your child's ears, a recurring ear infection could cause a speech language delay. So it's always also important for moms to know those kind of things and to look out for that. So yes, I think the milestones play a very big part, and the red flags definitely, like when you get to that age, let's take it with okay, the child isn't doing that, but could it be an ear infection? Go to the GP.
My nephew actually had an ear infection, and they actually had to do surgery in his drummets. Had to do surgery to actually fix his eardrum, which actually did impair his speech as well. But that was the only issue; there was nothing else. So it really does take going to seek advice and actually finding out what maybe that deeper underlying issue is. But in the event that it maybe is the fact that there's a slight delay, Inge, how would a parent actually handle that emotionally and mentally?
Okay, so I think emotionally it's tough. None of us want to hear that there is a problem or a concern with our children, because they are perfect in our eyes. I think my biggest advice is to a parent when there are red flags is don't stick your head in the sand like an ostrich. It's not going to go away. And as Rhoda said earlier on as well, early intervention is key. So rather just face up to it that there is a problem here and what do we need to do to support it, because by supporting the child you're making that child's life a lot easier. So it's not about mom doing anything wrong or failing. So I just think as parents to help them look at the problem and do something about it for the sake of your child, because they can't always verbalize that, and they don't need to struggle with all the support that we do have in place these days.
So what advice would you actually have for parents, Mari-Louise, for them to actually celebrate those milestones? When they've finally reached the walking stage or the talking stage or the crawling stage. I used to call my daughter Creepy Crawly because it was that my mom actually named her Creepy Crawly, because out of nowhere just little babies creeping around.
I think that's just the thing. I think we should celebrate it because these days it's easy. I think it's getting easier to celebrate because we see people celebrating half birthdays and everything on social media. I think it's so much fun recording it in a baby book, taking that photo. We shouldn't feel restricted. If you want to take 50 photos of your child having those first 2 steps, do it. I think it's such a wonderful way to remember it, to look back on it. And it's really something nice to celebrate with your child, with your husband, your partner. It is a major thing when they grow up. So we should enjoy it.
And they are growing up. You know, I think the one thing that has been reoccurring is the fact that you blink and they've grown up. So let's please create those memories. Let's save those memories, and for them to share, even for them when they're a bit older on, for us to all celebrate and actually look back on. So you are creating memories the whole time, because they can't remember the first walk, but you do, and you captured it. This has been the most fantastic show uncovering the basics of why developmental milestones are so much fun and so important. We've had some great resources from our MamaMagic website for you moms and dads. And of course, when you need a refresher, just pop on over and watch them one more time. Thank you to our sensational guests for your time, your personal input and expertise. Time is fleeting, so enjoy every moment of watching your little one grow. And of course, we love growing with you, so please do subscribe to our channel. I'm Linda Ogamtoba, and this is Lights, Camera, Baby, powered by MamaMagic. Until the next.
Do you know about stem cell banking? Have you considered this for your baby and their future? Banking your baby's stem cells is a form of medical insurance that you hope you never have to use. Stem cells are the original building blocks of life and can help treat over 80 blood-related diseases. Contact NetCells today to learn how you can safeguard your baby's future.
You've spoken and we've listened. That's why our gentle protective hugs have grown. The Huggies Extra Care range you know and love is now available in sizes 3, 4, and 5. with soft absorbent pillows and unique runny poo pockets for extra leakage protection. Huggies Extra Care is also clinically proven hypoallergenic for newborn skin protection. Give your baby the best care they deserve with Huggies Extra Care. Huggies, your hugs inspire ours.